Hi everybody, Andy here again. Before I start, I must say this is not a party political broadcast. I know I said the YouTube elections, but there's a very good reason for that. I'm not going to be telling you who to vote for in any particular elections across the world, or spout my political opinions or anything like that. Don't worry about that. All it was there's an article in one of the sort of better UK papers yesterday about what they were calling the YouTube elections. It says the YouTube elections, how campaigns have been scrutinised as never before. I'll just read a little bit of what it was saying. It says next week's midterm election scrutinised as never before. I'll just read a little bit of what it was saying. It says next week's midterm elections in America obviously may or may not see a radical shift in Americans' political leadership, but in campaigning terms the big change has already happened. The YouTube elections has arrived. Every time a candidate has made a gaffe, made an outrageous television advertisement, or provoked interesting discussion on a cable news show, or inspired a growing band of television satirists, the results have made their way onto the internet. And what's been happening, as you've probably seen already on some of the things that have been shown on YouTube, is as soon as someone makes a gaffe or something like that, or says something in the wrong place, or they're overheard, and this sort of thing doesn't just happen in America either. We've had plenty of politicians over in Europe and in the UK as well who have been overheard saying things that they obviously didn't want us to hear. They've been broadcast on the news and things like that, but obviously now, with the advent of the internet and with YouTube and sites like that, people are uploading them straight away for probably their own political ends. I understand that, but we all like to see politicians make mistakes, don't we? So it's made me sort of think about two things really. First off, once again, in my opinion, this is another thing that YouTube's good for. It can be like a force for change, a force for good, in sort of getting politicians to actually think about what they say a bit more, because now they know that they're going to be exposed as soon as they actually say something that's sort of out of course, if you want to put it that way, slightly outrageous or whatever. So we might actually, here on YouTube, force politicians, political parties right across the world, and so I'm not just talking about the America side, although that's obviously the hot topic at the moment. We might actually be able to change the way that people do things once again. So once again, another good thing that YouTube's for, and is sort of spurring on. Say, if people are calling these the YouTube elections, that can only be a good thing. We're all worried about the way the site might be going in lots of different ways, but this is good. It does raise a censorship issue, which ones they'll allow us to show and which ones they won't, but that's another debate altogether. The other point I was thinking of is about the politicians themselves. Why we're always overhearing all these gaffes? They're supposed to be sort of trained in media and all this sort of thing. What it was suggesting in that particular article was that a lot of the time that these people are saying, I mean, there's a John Kerry example, but there's plenty of others as well I know that have happened, is when they sort of stray off the script. And most politicians have their scripts written for them by somebody else. I know some of them write their own, I know, but they're written by somebody else. And it got me wondering whether when these people sort of stray off the party line, if you want to put it that, they're actually exposing their real thoughts, their real feelings. So maybe we're catching them out once again before they could get away with it, because a lot of the times these sort of things happen in sort of local areas. Obviously they're campaigning in local issues, states should we say, or even like smaller areas than that, towns, etc., small cities or whatever. And before, they would never have got caught out, because it was only been the local people who had known anything about it, a few people that happened to be in the audience at the time, if they overheard it anyway. But now, as soon as something's overheard, bang, it's up on the internet, it's shown right across the world, it's shown on TV stations, it creates a bigger story. So I like to think that we're actually catching these people out. I've got nothing against politicians, don't take that the wrong way, but it is nice when we do catch them with their trousers down, so to speak, and some of them be caught that way as well. Maybe that would be getting that on camera as well for too long. But another thing, I'm just thinking about a couple of people that said, just to tie this up a bit, whether people should vote or not. Once again, I'm not going to sort of tell you what to do, but it's just in a couple of different opinions. I saw a video from Renato the other day, and I think if I got the gist of what he was saying don't vote unless you actually believe in what the person's saying, and that's a very valid point. There was an old saying is don't vote because it'll only encourage them, which is another quite interesting point of view. My own point of view, for what it's worth, and this is just purely my own point of view, I've always voted, whether I've depends which party it is, I think, because we have our own parties over here in the UK, and obviously they're all different across the world. And I've always actually bothered to vote. The reason I do that is because the way I look at it, a lot of people in the past have died in wars, in protests and things like this, have been imprisoned, etc., so that we've all got the right to vote. We've all got that right to democracy. We should be very grateful for the fact that we live in democratic countries. Lots of people don't live in democratic countries, so if you have the right to vote, you've got the opportunity to vote. And don't forget, in the not too distant past, depending on what race you were, even what religion you were, even what sex you were, as to whether you were allowed to vote or not. We've all got that right now, certainly in democratic countries anyway, and we should celebrate that. So therefore, use your vote. If you don't want to use your vote, that's absolutely fine, but as I always say to people, don't moan afterwards. If you didn't vote, what right have you got to complain about the person that comes in and does whatever they do, the party that comes in? And if you don't like it, at least I can turn around and say, well, I didn't vote for him, I voted for the other guy or the other woman or whatever. So anyway, so I don't want to get too political, but there you go. My thoughts on that. I just thought it was quite an interesting article, the YouTube elections. Maybe YouTube could be a force for change in the political world, as well as all the other different types of worlds that we've been discussing here. Anyway, thanks for your time. Goodbye.